Hey guys, my name is Courtney and I am your favorite little flight attendant over at the Love Boat. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Courtney. I'm 44 years old. I'm based in Phoenix. I'm a single mom, a dog mom, and I am your favorite layover bestie. And I wanted to take this quick moment to introduce you to myself and my channel, give you a little background on why I became a flight attendant, what my process was like, why I chose the airline that I chose, and what you can expect from this channel. So if you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you'll get updated every time I post a new video. So let's get into it. So as I mentioned before, my name is Courtney. I'm 44 years old. Prior to becoming a flight attendant, I was a full-time content creator. Ironically, my content centered around travel and lifestyle as well as single parenting. And at the time when I started my content creation journey, I also focused on homeschooling. So that is kind of what the platform was built on when I originally started being a content creator. My original channel and platform was called World in 4 Days. So some of you guys may know me from that blog and that Instagram. If you do, hey, welcome back. If you don't, well, now is your opportunity to get to know me. A little bit of background, before I became a content creator, I was also a nurse. So I did that for about 10 years. And also, I'm not new to the aviation industry. When I was younger, in my 20s, I worked for a few different airlines. I worked for JetBlue. I was a part of the original opening team for opening the Long Beach airport when JetBlue was stationed there. They're no longer there anymore. That's how long ago it was. So I worked at JetBlue. I worked at America West, which was originally called America West, and then I think they were later bought out by American. And then I also worked for a private jet company called Gulfstream. They actually manufactured private jets, so that wasn't so much as far as like working in an airport. It was more of just having a background in aviation. And then up until about 6 months ago, I worked for another airline called Piedmont, which is the regional airline for American Airlines. And I worked there for about 6 months, and that was my last airline job before I transitioned over to Southwest, which I call the Love Boat. So why did I become a flight attendant, and why did I wait until I was 44 years old? So as I mentioned, I was a single mom. I have always had a love and passion for travel, even before I created my blog. As a content creator, I worked for an airline. So I used to travel all over the place when I worked for JetBlue, when I worked for America West. When I homeschooled my daughter, I did what we called world schooling, where our curriculum was based upon travel. So if she was learning about Anne Frank, then we flew to Amsterdam and we went to the Anne Frank house so that she can experience it and kind of learn like in the moment. So I've always been very travel focused. The reason I waited so long to become a flight attendant and move out of customer service was I was a single mom. So it's really hard as a flight attendant to be a single parent because your schedule, especially in the very beginning, is very unpredictable. You're often on reserves. Sometimes you're not necessarily based where you live, which means you have to commute. And that can be a hassle if you don't have a strong support system or someone else that's helping you. My daughter is 16 now. She's very independent. So I have the ability now, and I feel comfortable with traveling and leaving her at home. Also, my mom and my sister are local. So if there was ever an emergency or she needed help with something, I do have family that is 10 minutes away who could be there to support her. So in my time, like in my life right now, this was the perfect opportunity for me to pursue my dream of becoming a flight attendant. Another reason I just chose to be a flight attendant over customer service, because I get asked this a lot, was number one, I just really like to fly. I feel like in this job, a lot of people become flight attendants because they like the idea of being a flight attendant, but they don't really understand that this is truly a lifestyle. Coming from the aviation industry, I knew that. So I knew that what I was getting into. I knew what reserve life was going to be like. I knew the unpredictability of it. I knew that sometimes my life could change at any moment. And I knew that I may have to relocate and I may not be based where I live. So I knew all of that going into it. And even that, knowing all of that outweighed for me working in customer service. So for me, in-flight was something that I always wanted to do. I just needed to wait until my daughter was older. Another reason that I chose being a flight attendant is when you're a flight attendant, you get a little bit more perks than you do being a customer service rep. We have what are called cabin agreements as flight attendants that you don't have when you're in customer service. So we as flight attendants have the ability to fly on pretty much every airline and under what's called the commuter policy. So I could hop on a Delta flight if I want to. I can hop on an American flight. I can hop on a United flight, and I can fly for free under the commuter policy. When you're working in customer service, for the first 6 months, you're limited to only working on your airline. And then after 6 months, then you have what are called Z agreements, and then you can Z on other airlines. But even Zing on other airlines, it's not free. It's almost free. You're paying the taxes. So that was another reason that I decided to go as a flight attendant versus customer service. Also, as a flight attendant, you get a lot more perks as far as discounts with hotels and all that other stuff. So it just made sense for me. Another reason that I decided to go in flight is my daughter is graduating high school in the next 2 years, and she is considering going abroad for school. She's already been accepted to 2 international colleges, and I would love to be able to follow her there. And being a flight attendant, you have flight attendants who literally commute from all over the world. So it would make sense for me to become a flight attendant if I have a daughter that is going to be out of school internationally, because I can pretty much travel to her whenever I want. So I could now I don't meet the visa requirements to actually live in the countries that she would be going to school to, but because I can travel so frequently and it costs me nothing, I could easily have my base in New York, and then I could commute back and forth, and we could share an apartment there, and then I could have an apartment here. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I decided to become a flight attendant versus customer service. Ramp was never an option for me because your girl's just not built for ramp. I'm not built for slinging bags and hanging out in the belly of an airplane. I know my lane and I stay in my lane. So that is why I chose flight attendant over other airline positions. So now that I've talked about why I wanted to become a flight attendant, let's talk a little bit about what my journey was like to becoming a flight attendant, because my journey was definitely not typical, and it was kind of wild and crazy. So for starters, I have my notes over here because it's actually a lot. So first I'm going to tell you obviously who I work for. I work for Southwest Airlines. I'm based in Phoenix. And I absolutely love Southwest. Southwest, I knew from the moment I wanted to become a flight attendant that Southwest Airlines was who I wanted to work for. I have been rocking with Southwest. I took my first flight with Southwest when I was 5 years old. And I don't know if you guys remember this because I'm dating myself here. But I remember flying my first Southwest flight when they had the little gold and red planes and the seats faced each other. Like, that was back in, I think, 1985. And I took my very first Southwest flight when I flew from, I believe it was Chicago to California when we relocated out here. And I remember being able to pass out the little, I think it wasn't pretzels back then. I think it was like the honey peanuts. And I was just like, I want to be a flight attendant. And so I've always had a love and a passion for Southwest. And then when I relocated from California to Arizona, as I mentioned, I was a single mom, but Reese still has a relationship with her dad, but he was still in California. And so in order to make our custody agreement work, Reese had to travel as an unaccompanied minor. And I'm not going to lie, Southwest was kind of the only airline that I trusted with my kid. Not only did I trust them, they were affordable. And so Reese flew as an unaccompanied minor from back and forth from Arizona to California for about a good 5 years. She flew so much on Southwest that she actually earned companion status and made me her companion. So like I said, I've been rocking with Southwest for a very, very long time. I love the company culture, and I just love everything about the airline. So I knew that when I became a flight attendant, I knew that it may not be right away because somebody has to practically die to get a job at Southwest because people don't leave there. I knew that that's what I wanted. And I was willing to work other airlines until the applications opened up. And I knew that it would probably be a while. So when I first decided to become a flight attendant, I literally applied for every airline there was. And I actually have a list of all the airlines that I applied for. I applied for American, United, Delta, Allegiant, Republic, SkyWest, PSA, JSX, which is a regional like private jet company. And I applied for Envoy. I ended up getting interviews with all of those airlines with the exception of American, which I thought was ironic because at the time I was working for Piedmont, which was literally the regional carrier of American. So kind of was a slap in the face, like, and a hit to my ego. Like, how did y'all not give me an interview when I literally practically already work for you guys? But that's neither here nor there. It just wasn't meant to be. And then out of the ones that I got interviews with, I actually got job offers or CJOs, conditional job offers, which basically meant that I got the green light to start training for United, Delta, Allegiant, SkyWest, and Envoy. So I'm going to go through why I ended up turning down all of those airlines. The one that I was actually going to accept right before Southwest came in and how that whole process worked. So the reason I turned down United was because the reason I turned down actually United and Delta. Now let me back this up because a lot of people will say, well, why did you apply for all of them? I applied for all of them because I didn't know that I was going to get CJOs and offers for all of them. Obviously, I had my mindset on specific criteria that I wanted in an airline, but I'm also not stupid. I wasn't going to turn down something for nothing. So yes, I applied for American and United, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why I ended up turning them down, but I was going to accept them if they were the only ones that came through. So I just wanted to make sure that that clears that up because I've had a lot of people ask me, well, why did you apply for all of them? It's very, very hard to get a job offer from an airline as a flight attendant. So my situation was extremely rare that I got interviews and job offers from so many different airlines. And I'm very aware that that is not normal. And I am extremely lucky. And we'll talk more about that later. So the reason I turned down United and Delta were pretty much for the same reason. I knew that I did not want to fly for an international long haul carrier. And I know that that sounds crazy, but because a lot of people, that's like their goal. They have dreams of having layovers in Paris and London and Dubai and all that other stuff. Not your girl. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. Like the thought of being on a 12, 14, 16 hour flight and then having a 24-hour layover and then turning around and doing it all over again did not sound appealing to me because I understand how the airline industry works. And I know that travel is always going to be open to me at an extremely discounted price due to Z agreements. I did not feel the need to have work for an airline that laid over in Japan or Australia or London because I know that I could go travel to those destinations on my own time for pennies on the dollar and have a better experience because I would be able to go when I wanted to go, spend as much time as I wanted to spend there and so forth. So that was one of the reasons I turned down American and United, as well as Delta. Well, American I didn't get an offer from, but that's why I turned down United and Delta. Allegiant was one that I was seriously considering because Allegiant is based in Phoenix. They're based out of the Mesa Gateway Airport. And the reason I was considering them is because Allegiant is one of the only airlines that does turns, which means they do not do layovers. So I would always leave out of Mesa Gateway in Phoenix and I would return back to Mesa Gateway in Arizona every single night. You come home and sleep in your own bed. So that was appealing to me because I'm a single mom and I have a dog and the outcome would be the same. I would still have flight benefits. I would still be able to Z and I would still be able to enjoy being a flight attendant. So Allegiant was one of the ones that I had seriously considered. But I ended up turning them down just because the pay was not there. I don't even remember what the pay was, but I remember it not being great. SkyWest was another one that I had first seriously considered it. And the reason I ended up turning SkyWest down is because number one, out of all the ones that I mentioned, SkyWest is a regional airline, which means they fly for American, United, and Delta. They fly for all three. Now, what I loved about SkyWest is that you would get flight benefits on American, United, and Delta. I love the fact that at the time when I was doing my research, they seemed very family oriented. I'm not going to speak on what my research revealed, but I just knew after doing my research that SkyWest was not the airline for me. The other thing that turned me off with SkyWest, and I'm just going to be completely transparent, they had a year probation and they're non-union. That was a deal breaker for me. The year probation and the non-union kind of did it for me. Also, I wasn't a huge fan of flying regional jets. Regional jets are just usually the smaller jets. And they usually fit, I believe, like 80 people, CRJs, 700s, things like that. So that was one of the reasons I turned down SkyWest. But again, if they were the only one that came through, I was going to take it. PSA I turned down just simply because they're also a regional airline. They're located on the East Coast. I would have had to commute, and that was something that I didn't want to do. The pay was also not that great. I think it was like $17 an hour. JSX I turned down for the same reason. Actually, one of my supervisors when I worked at JetBlue, which is actually funny. His name is Alex Wilcox. He owns JSX. I worked with him when I worked at JetBlue, and that was kind of cool because I was familiar with working under Alex's leadership, and so I was cool with that. But JSX, I ended up not going that route because they're a very small airline, and the opportunity for growth just wasn't there, and the flight benefits weren't all that great. Envoy was the airline that I had finally come to the agreement with that is the airline I was going to take. I accepted their CJO. I had a training date and I was ready to go. And then the most amazing thing happened, and we are going to talk about how I ended up with a CJO from Envoy and how I ended up accepting a position at my dream airline, Southwest. So let's get into that. Okay, you guys, let's talk about how I ended up going from a CJO with Envoy to a position as a flight attendant for Southwest when I didn't even know that they were hiring. But before I do that, I want to remind you to like and comment on this video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell so that you can get a notification every time I create a new video, and you can come and check it out and say hello. So let's talk about how this whole process went down, because this was completely unexpected. When I applied for all of the airlines that I applied for, Southwest was not even in the running because they weren't even hiring. And I was not anticipating them hiring because Southwest had not hired since, I believe, COVID. And even the class that they hired during COVID, they ended up not moving forward with it. I don't remember if it was a mix of COVID or if it had something to do with the delay of the delivery of their Boeing aircrafts. But either way, they weren't hiring. Also, Southwest is known for being an airline that does not hire often because their flight attendants don't leave. Where I'm based at in Phoenix it's first of all, it's a very, very senior base. Like, they call it the dinosaur burial ground. It's so senior. I'm not sure if you're familiar with when Southwest used to have their old uniforms, the hot pants. I will insert a picture here so you can see what they used to look like. I think they're kind of cute. I wish they would bring them back, or at least bring them back as an option. I think it would be kind of cool. But anyways, I have people in my base who literally used to rock that uniform because they have been with Southwest since the 70s. They're not going anywhere until probably they die. So as much as I wanted to work for Southwest, I did not plan on applying for Southwest during this round of interviews because I didn't even realize it was going to be an option. But one thing you will learn about me, and if you don't already know this from watching my other content, I am huge on manifestation. Now, if you're not familiar with what manifestation is, it's basically a belief that everything in life is already created and you choose basically the reality you choose to focus on. Basically, energy flows where attention goes. So if you think positive, then positive things will happen to you. And I know that's so surface level and BS because I did not believe it either, but there's more involved to it. I will dive deeper into my thoughts on manifestation and my process over the course of videos because it is something that has truly changed my life. And my life that I live now is a direct reflection of everything that I have manifested, from my dog to the apartment that I live in, to my job at Southwest, to even being based at Phoenix when everybody told me it would never happen. My whole entire life is a manifestation, and it is reflected in my vision boards, in my scripting journals, in the affirmations that I say to myself. For years, I was walking around saying that I'm a Southwest flight attendant before they were even hiring. But that's a whole topic for another day. Anyways, I was so set that I was going to be a Southwest flight attendant that I wanted to be prepared if and when the opportunity ever presented itself. So I had created a resume and a cover letter and had completed the Southwest portal profile almost a year ago. Okay, my resume I would update frequently, but I think the last update was about 4 months ago, so that I knew that when those applications opened, I would be ready, because Southwest is notorious for opening their applications and then closing them like literally in an hour. And I wanted to be prepared for that. I also turned on notifications so that when the applications went live, I would get a notifications, which leads me into why I do not like technology and technology don't like me. I did not get a notification when they opened their applications, you guys. So basically what happened was I remember sitting in my living room one day having an internal argument with myself on why I should go check the Southwest Airlines website, because my intuition and my gut kept telling me, go check the website, go check the website. Like, you guys, it would not even let me be comfortable and focus on what I was doing, because that's all I could think about. And I literally sat there and argued with myself for a good 20 minutes before I finally got up and went and got my computer and logged in to check to see if Southwest was hiring. And lo and behold, guess what? They were. And so I luckily had my resume already completed. So all I literally had to do was drag and drop the resume into their website and apply. And I did. And when I did that, the entire screen went white. Instant panic. I did not get a confirmation that they received my application. I didn't get an email confirmation. Like, literally the page went white and nothing was going on. I refreshed the page thinking, okay, let me refresh the page and reapply again, because there's probably a bunch of people applying. Y'all, I refreshed that page and tell me why the job disappeared. They closed the application period just that quickly. Needless to say, I was devastated. Like, I was hurt. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I cried real tears that day, because I thought that my dream was so close and it was so gone, and I didn't even get the opportunity to, like, we'll just leave it at that. Your girl was hurt. And I was upset for about 2 days. And then on the second day, I got an email from Southwest saying that my application was received, and that if I moved forward in the process, they would be in contact with me. So at least that made me feel better, that at least my application was received and all was not lost. But keep in mind, at this time, I had kind of already moved on with my life, because I already had a CJO, a conditional job offer from Envoy, and I was set to start training on, I believe, April 6th. So at that point, I was like, okay, you know what? It's out of my hands. It's in the universe's hands. And if it's meant for me to have this position at Southwest, then I will get the position at Southwest, and I'm not going to stress about it. I kept saying my affirmations, even while preparing to get ready to go to Envoy training. I was still saying my affirmations. I am a Southwest flight attendant. I am based in Phoenix. I am a Southwest flight attendant. I am based in Phoenix. I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but you know what? That's the thing with manifestation. You're delusional. It is what it is. So I went on with my life. About a week later was my daughter's 16th birthday. We have a tradition in our family. We've been doing this ever since she was 8 years old. For her birthday every year, she gets to pick anywhere in the world that she wants to go, and we go there for usually about 10 days. She gets to pick where we go, where we stay at, and everything that we do there. Like, the whole trip is all about her. So this year, she ended up picking Amsterdam. She's a huge Sabrina Carpenter fan. And Sabrina Carpenter was playing at Ziggo Stadium in Amsterdam, so we decided to go there. I worked for Piedmont at the time, so we flew out on American, had an amazing time. About 6 days into our trip there in Amsterdam, I get an email from Southwest inviting me to a virtual interview. This is their video interview, where it's not an actual interview with a person. They give you some questions, and then you answer the prompts via video. I was excited, but when I went to go shoot this video, you guys, the internet in the hotel was atrocious. Like, it reminded me of like AOL dial-up, you guys. Like, it was so slow and so bad. My video was so grainy. The lighting in the hotel, all over the hotel, was horrendous. I ended up shooting the video on the bathroom floor of the hotel with a shower curtain as my backdrop. Y'all, I wanted to cry because I am big on professionalism. And although I was very confident in my answers, I had done my research on the company. Like, I knew my stuff. The aesthetics of this video, you guys, like, I wish I could get a copy of that video because it was so bad. Okay, it was so bad, and I just knew that was going to ruin my chances. But again, I manifested it and I let it go. So I did that. And then about another 5 days went by and we were literally on the tarmac getting ready to push back, to head back to Arizona. And I get a ding on my phone and it is an email from Southwest Airlines inviting me out to Dallas for a face-to-face interview. Y'all, my interview date was April 6th. Now, mind you, my interview date was April 4th. Mind you, I was supposed to be starting Envoy training April 6th. Now, at this point, I was crushed because I did not know how many interviews Southwest did. I knew they did the virtual interview. I knew they did the face-to-face interview in Dallas. And then I did not. You want to say hi, baby? That's my baby Arlo. I knew that they did that interview, but I didn't know if there was going to be another interview after that. And I did not want to turn down Envoy for an opportunity that I didn't know was going to like truly happen with Southwest. Like I could have gone on this interview with Southwest and they could have been like, great, we're going to schedule another interview for you. And then at that point I would have been screwed because I would not have been able to leave training at Envoy. So I was like literally crashing out in my head, doing the what if scenarios, which you don't do in manifesting, but I was doing them anyway. I was spiraling. But I ended up saying, okay, fine, whatever. I accepted the interview and I basically did everything that I did. I went out, I bought the perfect interview outfit. I have found this really cute red, coat that I was going to wear. I'll insert a picture of it here so that you guys can see it. This really cute wool red pea coat because I wanted to wear red because that is one of Southwest's colors and I wanted to stand out. And I wanted to go in looking like a flight attendant. I was rocking my red lipstick. Y'all, I was looking cute. And so I did. I went to the interview at Southwest. Everybody loved my jacket. And I did my interview. I wish I could remember the person's name, who my recruiter was, who I interviewed with them. But it was two people. It was the recruiter and it was another flight attendant. And they pulled me into the room to interview. And the interviews are supposed to only take, so let me first back up. When you first get there, there was an AM and there was a PM class because they were doing such a huge hiring event. There was an AM and a PM class. I was in the AM class, so I was at like 8:30 in the morning. Y'all, there was so many people there. It almost felt like a cattle call. There was so many people. I was not expecting that many people to be there. It was at least 100 people in the AM and 100 people in the PM. So that instantly made me nervous. They sat you in this big, huge auditorium that looked like a law classroom. And then they call you in like one by one, like all these recruiters come to the front, like 7 recruiters at a time come to the front and they call people's names. And then they pull you out and you do your interview. And then the process of waiting, they're going over the other flight attendants who work there are giving you, background on the company, what to expect with being a flight attendant. So there was a lot going on at one time. So I got pulled into my interview. Now, also keep in mind, I am a huge researcher. So I had done all of my research on Reddit, on Facebook groups, on what the interview process was with Southwest. So I kind of had an idea in my head of like kind of what to expect. And so I got called in for my interview and the interview was only supposed to last for 15 minutes. Y'all, I talked these people's ear off. We were in there for 30 minutes. We were laughing. We were joking. Like it was I felt like I connected really, really well with my interviewer, the recruiter, and with the other flight attendant. Now, I know based off of my research that after you do your interview with Southwest, if you're moving on to the next step, then they move you on to the next process, which is you do the fit test, where they make you they want to make sure that you're fit for the job. So you have to be able to fit in the jump seat. You have to be able to crawl through an exit row window, and a bunch of other criteria, like a fitness test. Nothing crazy or anything like that. And then after that, you move on to the drug test if you pass. So after I did my interview, the lady was like, okay. And she's like walking me out and she's like, okay, well, if you get the job, we'll reach out to you in she goes, oh, it usually takes about 2 weeks to hear back. And my heart sank at that point because I was like, oh my God, they're walking me out. This is not how this is supposed to go. I'm supposed to go to the fit test next. Y'all, I'm spiraling in my head and I'm thinking I delivered the best interview that I've ever delivered in my life. I felt like I connected with these people. I am a walking, breathing Southwest cheerleader. What is going on here? And so, but I held it together. And so she walks me out with 3 other people and she goes, okay, you guys, I can't remember how she split us up, but she broke me off from the group and was like, okay, you're going to go into this room. And then when I went into that room was when that was where I did my fit test. So then I was like, okay, I made it to the next step. But I was under the assumption that there was going to be the fit. Now, again, this whole process could have changed based off of when I've interviewed. So do not, use this as what is going to happen in your situation. If you get walked out, it does not mean that you did not get the job. Okay. So don't let me influence like what goes on in your interview. I'm just telling you my experience and what I experienced. So then I went on, I did my fit test. And then after I did my fit test, that was when they brought us into a separate room and they said they had music playing and they had snacks and they were like, congratulations, you're moving on to the next stop. You're getting your CJO. Welcome to Southwest. And you guys, it was just like the most amazing feeling in the world. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I am here. My dream has finally come true and I am going to be a Southwest flight attendant. Little did I know that was literally only the tip of the very iceberg, and you got to get through training, and I will make a whole nother training. And a whole other video about training because y'all, they had me fighting for my life in training. I have never experienced something so hard in my life. I'm not even going to lie to you. I went into this thinking that it wasn't going to be that difficult. If I could make it through nursing school, I can make it through anything because, as you know, nurses eat their young and nursing school is hard as hell. Y'all, they almost killed me in training. Like, it was brutal. It was intense. I felt like I was training to be a Navy SEAL. Okay, I'm not even going to lie. It was rough, but we'll talk about that in another video. Okay, so now that we have talked about what my experience was like going through the application process for not only all the other airlines, but for Southwest, I want to take a minute to talk about why I was so dead set on selecting Southwest over all the other airlines. I know that I talked about the reasons why I did not go with the other airlines, but I did want to share the reasons why I decided to go, why Southwest was my number one pick. So number one was Southwest's culture. Southwest is an amazing company to work for, and not only to work for, but to fly with. Like I said, I have a long history of flying with Southwest as a passenger. I see how they treat their passengers, and they are the only ones I trusted with my kid. Reese flew as an unaccompanied minor back and forth from California to Arizona every single weekend for over the course of 5 years. And she had nothing but an amazing experience with the customer service people at the gate, at the counter, the flight attendants, the pilots. She felt safe. There was never a time where she felt anybody was rude to her. And I really trusted them with my kid. I personally remember flying with them as a kid, and that was when I was 5. I'm 44. The fact that I have a memory from a company from 35 years ago says a lot about how they treat their customers. Southwest is known as being having the highest paid of flight attendants in the industry. That was huge for me. Their medical benefits are top notch. Free healthcare. I think 9.5 matching 401k. Flight benefits, you get flight counter agreements, or you get flight benefits, Z agreements with nearly every airline that there is. Lots of advancement opportunities. The fact that they've never had a layoff for flight attendants was huge for me. They have a very strong union. The flexibility as a flight attendant at Southwest, we work 3 days on and 4 days off. We have the ability to trade our shifts, to drop our shifts, and to sell our shifts. If you get burnt out with a lot of other airlines, like basically you're SOL. I love that Southwest gives flight attendants an opportunity to be like, you know what? This is too much for me right now. I need to take some time off. It may cost you to take the time off, but the option is there for you. As a flight attendant with Southwest, if I choose to not work at all for 6 months, I'm not going to be paid, but at least that's an option for me. That's not an option for a lot of other airlines. Being a single mom and having to deal with raising my daughter and knowing that I can take time off if I need to was really, really important to me. I love the fact that Southwest did not fly international. I did not find excitement in being on a 12-hour flight or an 8-hour flight to London with a 20-hour layover, fighting jet lag, and then turning around and doing it all over again. That wasn't a struggle that I wanted. I love that Southwest only does domestic and their international is pretty local. It's Mexico and some islands. So that was cool for me. I like the fact that Southwest does not have a first class service. Southwest has a very specific clientele. They're not needy like Delta's clients. They're cool, you know, they're very laid back, they're chill. I wanted that. I like the fact that Southwest has a very good safety record as far as flying. If I'm going to be a flight attendant on with an airline, I want to make sure that it's a safe one. So that was another reason that I picked Southwest. Another reason with Southwest, and this was probably the least one that I thought would ever come true, is they had a base in Phoenix. Now, I knew that it was a senior base, but I knew that eventually there would be an opportunity that I could possibly trade or transfer into there. Sorry, you guys, that's my dog. He's playing with his toys right now, and I'm not going to stop him because I'm going to let him enjoy himself. So unfortunately, you're just going to have to deal with the noise. I knew that eventually I would be able to be based in Phoenix, and that was cool for me. I like that. What was another reason that I picked Southwest? I think that was pretty much it. Those were all the reasons. Like, I truly rocked with the culture. And so that was important to me. Okay, so now that we have talked about my experience with joining in flight with Southwest, I want to chat a little bit about what this channel is going to be and what you can expect from me. I am big on educating people as well as sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, and the fun stuff. So I just want to give you guys a breakdown of what to expect. I have my little notes here so I don't forget anything. So the main thing that I'm going to focus on is flight attendant life. We're going to talk about what it's like sitting on reserve, what it's like bidding, what it's like working the different positions on an aircraft. I'm sure we're going to come across some times where things are not so great, and I want to talk about how I manage those and how you can manage those as a flight attendant. I want this channel to not only be a resource for those who are thinking about becoming a flight attendant, but also those people who are new to being a flight attendant, whether it's with Southwest or another airline, and you can kind of follow my journey, because at the end of the day, I'm still learning too. I'm literally 2 weeks fresh out of training and just flew my first trip last week. But I want you guys to follow along with the journey because I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to be here forever. And I want to be able to share that with you guys and to encourage you guys who decide you want to be flight attendants. So I want to be a resource. Next, we're going to have some fun and we're going to have a mix of layover vlogs. So what I'm doing on my layovers, all the cool places that I travel, and what it's like being a flight attendant and having layovers with your crew and sometimes having layovers by yourself and how I manage that. Also hotel reviews. We get to stay in some pretty awesome hotels as flight attendants, and we also get the benefit of getting discounts at a lot of hotels. Now, I am a huge hotel snob, so I thought it would be kind of fun to do share hotel walkthrough videos with you guys and what my experience is like staying at both hotels that are crew hotels as well as hotels that are that we get discounts on and opportunities that we can take advantage of. Next, I want to talk about travel tips and behind the scenes airline stuff. So if you have no desire to be a flight attendant whatsoever, but you just like travel content, this is your channel and I am your girl, because I'm going to talk about all things travel related, travel hacks, travel news, and just ways to make travel easy as a solo traveler or also as a parent who's traveling with kids. So if you have a desire to just engage and consume travel content, you're in the right place. Next, also lifestyle content. So one of the things that I learned when I first became a flight attendant was, y'all, nobody talks about how that cabin air sucks the life out of your face and just makes you like, y'all, I was looking like a lizard like my first week on the line. And so I want to talk about beauty trends of being a flight attendant, how my skincare routine, health, fitness, wellness, mental health. There's a lot of mental health that goes along with being a flight attendant because there's a lot of time that you're by yourself. And so a lot of flight attendants can sometimes struggle with depression and things like that. So I just want to share my experience and offer some tips and tricks as far as that is concerned. And then also we want to talk about mom life and dog mom life, because at the end of the day, I am still a single mom. And even though my daughter is 16 and is a lot more independent, there are still some times that I'm going to be there, that I'm going to need to be there for her. and I'm gonna need to juggle my life as a flight attendant and also my life as being a mom. One of those instances just came up. She's starting her very first summer program in Syracuse University, and I got my very first assignment for the month, and it was literally during the weekend that she was supposed to check in to her dorm in Syracuse. And I was just like, oh my God, this is my very first glimpse of reality of being a flight attendant and a single mom. And sometimes you're just going to miss things. Luckily, like I said, one of the reasons I chose Southwest is because the way they treat their passengers is the same way they treat their employees. So my supervisor was gracious enough to move my schedule around for me so that I would not miss this big moment in my daughter's life. And I'm going to be able to get to fly to Syracuse with her and check her into her very first summer experience at her dorm. So I'm excited about that. So again, I'm gonna be sharing mom life, dog life, my journey to finding a pet sitter to watch my puppy while I am away on trips. So we're gonna have some conversations like that. So if you are a dog mom and you are looking to become a flight attendant, what does that look like and what do you have to plan for? So overall, that is going to be, basically what I'm bringing to you guys. In a perfect world, I plan on posting 3 YouTube videos a week, at least 1 YouTube short a day. And then you can also follow me on my other social media platforms. I am on Instagram, and you can find the link down below. And I'm also on TikTok. You can also find the link down below. And I'm also launching a blog that is going to be tailored specifically towards flight attendant life and all the things that we just touched on. And I will leave a link down below to that so that you can follow along. Yeah, so that's it. That's the video, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that it was super, super long, and I promise you the rest of my videos will not be this long, but this was like a huge deal. And since a lot of you guys don't know me, I wanted to make sure that you got a full overview of what my journey was like to becoming a flight attendant. So again, if you have not liked this video, please make sure you do that now. Give it a thumbs up. If you have not left a comment, leave a comment down below. If you have a question, leave it down below and I will respond. If you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe and make sure you turn on notifications so that every time I post a new YouTube video, you will get an update so that you can come and check it out. Make sure to check out the videos on my channel. I will also make sure that I do categories for our playlists for everything to make it easy for you guys to find content. So make sure to check out some of the playlists. And if you have any questions, make sure to either leave me a comment here or you can hit me up on social media and I will answer any of your questions. If you are interested in becoming a flight attendant, I'm going to be launching a resume writing service and coaching program soon. So I can help you, I can coach you through mock interviews. I can either review your resume for you or I can completely redraft your resume. That's one of the things that I'm actually really good at. As it shows, I was able to not only land interviews, but CJOs with like 6 different airlines, which is completely unheard of. So not to toot my own horn, but your girl has the skills. So if you want my assistance with that, feel free to reach out to me and we can work something out because I would love to see you get your wings too. And I would even love to pin you guys if you decide that you go the flight attendant route and you end up earning your wings and it was due to my videos. Reach out to me because I would love to fly to your graduation and I would love to pin you. Until next time, thanks for watching. See you in the skies.